we talked about the coaches and things like that. I want to talk about the quarterback situation in Washington because right now on the roster currently you have Ryan Fitzpatrick, you've got Kyle Allen, and Taylor Heineke. Now, personally, I think Taylor Heineke is a guy that should be getting some looks. I was really impressed with him in that playoff game. I think that his playing style kind of fits today's NFL where when something breaks down, he can move around a little bit and make plays down the field. You saw that in the playoff game. I'm not saying he's the future, but I think that Ron definitely needs to have a quarterback competition this year. I think last year he came into the year saying it's Haskins' job to lose, which wasn't the worst approach. I mean, we all thought Haskins was going to be good, but he was obviously wrong. So I think that this year there's going to be a quarterback competition. I felt Washington really should have went after Matthew Stafford, and they did go after Matthew Stafford, but it was a swing and miss, And I felt that once the Deshaun Watson thing died down, I felt that even though Aaron Rodgers, you want to have him, I don't think Green Bay is going to trade him to an NFC team. I think they're probably going to ship him to the other conference in the AFC. I felt Washington really should have been aggressive in the draft and gone after someone like Mac Jones. I know some people aren't, so hot when it comes to Mac Jones. He's not the most sexy guy as far as the quarterback goes, but he's reliable, he's accurate, he can read a defense, and that's all Washington really needs is a guy that can be that game manager and occasionally make the big plays when you need it. And that's kind of what Mac Jones brings to the table. So I felt that once Justin Fields was off the board, Washington really should have gone after him. I actually kind of threw out that scenario that Mac Jones is perfect for Washington. I felt that was a good fit, but obviously it didn't happen. So you're left with Fitzpatrick, you're left with Heineke, you're left with Kyle Allen. Personally, I don't think this quarterback room is anything special. I do think Ryan Fitzpatrick brings some stability to Washington. He's a decent starter. Some games he's really, really good, but some games he's really, really bad. So, Louie T, what did you want Washington to do heading into this offseason? Did you want them to maybe draft a guy like Mac Jones? Or were you of the approach that you go after a guy like Stafford? What were your thoughts on heading into the offseason, and what do you think about the quarterbacks now?
I thought they did everything they could to try and upgrade the quarterback room. And Ron said that before the offseason got started, that they were going to leave no stone unturned when it came to the quarterback position. And I thought they gave it a run. I thought that they were aggressive in going after Matthew Stafford. I mean, they weren't looking to give up 2 first-round picks, which is what the Rams essentially were able to give the Lions in that trade. They weren't looking to do that. They offered up a 1 and a 3 though, and it just wasn't enough because the Lions got that extra 1 from the Rams. So they went after Stafford aggressively. I wasn't a fan of going after Carson Wentz, and by the way that deal with the Colts went down, neither was the rest of the league. Essentially, Indianapolis was one of the few teams really interested in him. I was interested in Deshaun Watson before all of the sexual assault stuff came out, and I think they were as well. They were monitoring the situation, but the Texans weren't looking to move him at that time. They hadn't wrapped their brains around the fact that he may never play for their organization again. So don't really know what that would have taken, but I expected it to take a ton to get him. I don't think he's on their radar anymore, even after all of this stuff blows over and dies down. If these accusations are false, I still think that they don't want any parts of Deshaun Watson now, just from a culture standpoint. So I think that really the draft and free agency were your only options. And how many times do you get a game-changing quarterback in free agency? It just doesn't happen very often. So there were no Tom Brady's on the market this year. It was Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was Andy Dalton. It was Tyrod Taylor. These were the guys that were available. Jacoby Brissett. I mean, none of these guys moved the needle at all whatsoever. We probably, if we're being honest with each other, we probably got the best of the bunch, but he's so volatile.
You're referring to Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick, exactly. He's so volatile. We probably got the best of that group of quarterbacks available in the free agent market, but he could throw for 350, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and you can score 38 points, or he could throw 4 interceptions and throw for 287, and you could get blown out of the game. I mean, you don't know what Fitzpatrick is going to show up. He's been better of late, as a lot of Washington fans try to point to, because they're excited and they want to believe, but There's 16 years of track record and history for us to be able to comb through and say that this guy hasn't been consistent. So I don't believe in Ryan Fitzpatrick as much as I want to believe in this team. I don't believe in him. I'm a Taylor Heineke guy myself. He's an ODU Monarch alum, which I am as well. So I'm rooting for him. I want him to get an opportunity. I, too, was impressed not only with him in the Tampa game, but the 1 quarter of work against Carolina, where I thought he brought us back and gave us an opportunity in that game as well. He's been impressive every time we've seen him. He put on some weight because one of his problems has been he started in 2 games in the NFL and gotten hurt in both of those games. So one of the things that he was told to work on is, look, you need to get stronger. You need to get bigger and be a little bit more durable. If we do turn to you, we can't have you getting injured, as soon as you start a game. So that's something he was conscious of this offseason. He put in the work. Rumors out of Washington were that he was the most impressive quarterback in OTAs, but guess what? He's been in that system for over 3 years. He should be the most impressive quarterback in OTAs. Fitzpatrick just literally got here. He's still learning the players. He's still learning the verbiage. He's still learning the scheme and timing with all the players. So I didn't expect him to come in and set the world on fire in OTAs. I think it'll be a different story come training camp. I think it will be a competition, but I think this is Ryan Fitzpatrick's job to lose in Washington. He's got to be absolutely horrid for him not to be the starter week 1 at home versus the Chargers. And so I expect him to be the guy under center when this season gets kicked off. But Taylor Heineke isn't going to make it easy. That is for sure. Like you said, this quarterback room is nothing to really write home about, but it's what we have. And so I'm excited about the season. I'm excited about what these quarterbacks could potentially do. And as far as the draft is concerned, I was really enamored with the top 2 quarterbacks in this year's draft class, in Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. After that, I really could care less about any of these other guys. I was intrigued by Trey Lance. I think he's a really talented guy.
You've compared him to Donovan McNabb in the past.
Right. I think he's got a game very similar to McNabb's, and I think he could actually be really good, and I think he landed in the perfect spot in San Francisco's offense. He's the perfect fit for that offense, and when they made the trade, I knew it was for Trey Lance. Everybody was talking about Mac Jones. I'm like, no, the guy's Trey Lance, and I said that from day one. So I think he's in the perfect spot, but after really those 3, I could care less about Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Those guys really didn't appeal to me, so I was glad Washington didn't trade up for either one of those guys. And we'll see what those guys do in the league. I think they could be good quarterbacks, but I just didn't think they were great fits for us in Washington. So, and you know what? To add to that, if Washington was sold on any one of those guys, they would have went up. They would have because quarterback is one of those positions, whatever it takes. So, if they really loved Fields. He got all the way to, what was it, 11? I think it was.
He went 11. With the
Giants.
You guys were 19th, though, so you'd have to trade a couple spots.
So if you really loved Fields at 11, from 19, that's nothing, okay? We've seen teams come all the way from the 20s to get into the top, 12. Like, what did the Chiefs come from? Like 26 to get to the 10th pick to get Mahomes? Where did the Texans come from to get Watson? I mean, we've seen teams come up from out of nowhere. The 49ers in this year's draft went from 12 to 3 to get their guy. You know how much that costs to get into the top 3 of the draft? If you really love a guy, you go up and you get him. So I don't think they loved either one of those quarterbacks. Both of them were in the wheelhouse. 8 picks in the draft, and you're not talking about a top 10 pick, is not that far-fetched to trade up to get a guy. And Mac Jones was even closer as he got to New England at 15. If you really loved either one of those guys, you could have made a move to go up and get one of those 2 quarterbacks. So I don't think they loved either of those guys either.
Got it. I have to disagree. I was a big fan of Justin Fields. I wasn't like a huge Mac Jones fan, but I felt that for Washington, for what they needed, I felt that he was the guy. I felt that he was, able to go get. I felt that he was in striking distance. But unfortunately, like you said, if you're not sold on a guy, then, don't go trade up for him, But, hey, it's in the past, I did fail to mention Kyle Allen. I know you failed to mention him a little bit as well. I think that most people realize that he's probably the odd man out. I'm not a Kyle Allen fan. Everyone was talking about a year ago when he came in for Cam Newton and he, lit it up versus the Cardinals, had like 3 or 4 really good games, then fell down to earth. At the time, people were saying, he's the future of the Panthers. I was like, no, Kyle Allen's not that guy. He's good, but not that good. So I'm not a huge Kyle Allen fan. I don't think most Washington fans are. He can't really stay healthy, so unfortunately for him, he's probably, like I said, going to be the odd man out. So I just wanted to point that out because I didn't mention him.
And look, I'll add to that. With Kyle Allen, I think because he's coming off of ankle surgery, he's just at the back of the line, essentially. Had he been healthy, we'd be talking about him a little bit more because Ron Rivera really likes Kyle Allen. They traded a 5th-round pick to go and get him. He thinks a lot of Kyle Allen. When asked last year if we would have been in the same, spot and position to make the postseason had Kyle Allen stayed healthy and been in the lineup, he said yes, emphatically yes. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even asked that question. He just offered up that response during a separate question. He brought up Kyle Allen and said, hey, Kyle Allen would have definitely been a guy that we could have won with and been in the same spot had he been healthy. So I think he believes in Kyle Allen. I just think because he's coming off of ankle surgery, he's not 100%. He's already told us that at OTAs he wasn't 100%. I think with Heineke already being in there and getting reps and Fitzpatrick being brought in to be the starter, I think Allen is a long shot to be the starter, and so that's why no one's really talking about him. And I think a lot of fans feel like they know what Kyle Allen is, like they know what his ceiling is. They don't think he's got potential to be a dynamic NFL starter, whereas there's still this mystery and there's still this intrigue surrounding Taylor Heineke because of what he's shown. And so you don't really know as much, so you want to find out. Whereas with Kyle Allen, you're like, okay, we saw him for enough starts in Carolina, and he started like 3 or 4 games for a while. So, we've seen enough. We think we know what this guy is. He's nothing special. I think that's a little bit of it as well.
Yeah, and I will say this. I know Washington fans are probably going to be upset about the statement right here, but I expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to not last the full 17-game season. I'm not saying he's going to get injured, although that could be a possibility, but the history shows that he's going to be inconsistent at some point. You're probably not going to like what you see. Then if Taylor Heineke's, doing well in practice, he's probably going to get an opportunity. So we'll see. If you're a Washington fan, take the quarterback situation with a grain of salt. We'll see what happens. I think Louie T can subscribe to this as well. He wasn't a big Fitzpatrick fan, but he understands, that, he's better than probably Andy Dalton right now, probably better than a guy like Jacoby Brissett. So you'll see what happens, This roster is really good. So Fitzpatrick or whoever's the quarterback has weapons to throw to, has a good defense. It's going to come down to them, So we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.